So as a follow-up, how can the First Amendment help us balance the real dangers of online hate speech versus free speech?
I think that one's tricky. I am almost a First Amendment free speech absolutist. I think unless there's a really definite targeted threat against a person, we're walking down a dangerous road when we start limiting people's speech. So I'm not a big fan of government getting involved in regulating speech at all. And I'm not a big fan of the Facebooks or Apples or Microsofts of the world doing that either. I think once they start picking and choosing which opinions they like, which opinions they don't like, whose politics they like, whose politics they don't like, you're walking down a pretty dangerous path. So I don't know that there's a huge distinction between First Amendment outside of digital world versus inside that world, other than people have such a bigger megaphone potentially. Average person on the street, they get on Facebook, they get on Twitter, they can reach a larger audience than they can, if they're down in the public square wearing a placard and screaming at the moon. So increases the size of the potential audience, but I think the principles still have to apply. And I think that when you look at the Facebooks and Twitters of the world, if they're going to regulate in a way that's not content neutral or philosophy or politics or viewpoint neutral, they get themselves into a really weird spot constitutionally.
And I would only add, and I'm probably a little more. I think there's probably a bigger place for government when it comes to the issue of public safety, and while freely acknowledging that there's a slippery slope, and when we acknowledge there's a danger in limiting free speech, there's also very real world danger that exists, and restraining particularly dangerous speech, which are threats of violence, threats and attempts to break criminal and civil law. Not civil law, but there are ways that you can do real harm through both your speech and your actions. So I think there's a role for government